Welcome back, fellow armchair generals. This is Gamer1745 with my continuing crushing of France while playing Hearts of Iron 3. We're going to continue it. Wandering all over the map here? No, we're going to continue with this here. Also, I think we have a couple of decisions to make. Okay, study for level 4 Naval HQ has finished. Well, it finished a while ago, but what it requires is some territory, I think up in Norway, Denmark, West France, and Netherlands. So, want this. Let's see. I guess North Sea there. We need to control that. Just go down to the bottom because they're given such poor stats because these stats do not affect, and they supposedly, and I believe them, tested it out, don't affect naval units under their command. So they do that. Norwegian, which I don't know why they just didn't put it in Norway, but maybe it's not a requirement to control Norway at the time to get this. Doesn't affect the naval units under their staff. Under their command, if you will. So we stick that on board ship. Yes. Okay. Large convoy just to move them up there, but since it's available and we might run into some British submarines or something, might as well do that. That'll help with occupation. And where they still have very good stats if they're commanding ships. Really don't know what Marine Commando West, Marine Commando Nord, and is versus the Norwegian, Danish at that level. And we'll just comment and their whatever admiral here. Oh well. Okay, now where's West French Reich? Okay, here we are. Don't know why this is showing up in Berlin. So we're gonna send this over here, and I might as well start moving him in anticipation of moving him. Donuts moved his headquarters to Lorient. We'll give him a sub there. Okay, we won the Battle of Paris. Notice it did spike up over the max briefly of rare materials. Castle ring improved some there. Modal as well. Okay, they can end this action. This is just about almost all headquarters attacking, so let's drill down into it. So a lot more into the action there. Now we go to 91. And now that we have Paris, we got more leadership. We still have some more leadership to allocate. Now, what is their purpose of attacking here, please? Can someone explain to me how even the AI could think, oh, it's a good time to try that one off, especially with Bernard Law Montgomery. In command. We reinforced very shortly there. Reinforce that. Supporting attack. Okay. Got these guys moved to there. That should help out quite a bit. That's alright. Attack my HQ, go ahead. Battle at Versailles. Got that. Now all the rest of the people who now you attack them in return. They can support the attack there. And the planes is taken. Okay. No, we're not going to move across the Atlantic. And even more leadership has been gained. We'll do 20-inch fighter prototype. Just need to keep things flowing, keep moving forward. Keep the enemy off balance. Uh-oh, we lost a province. Oh. I'm going to keep moving forward. We're going to send them up to there. Okay, now more production. I think it's time for another Panzer Grenadier division. Stick with the medium artillery, assault guns. But we're going to leave the HQ blank because I'm thinking about using one of these veteran HQs. Okay. HMS. What is it? Anson is launched. Don't know that ship right offhand. Okay, the tripart pact. Okay. Well, I believe this event is from Black Ice. It is basically now a duplicate of, and I guess it's just informational. Of the one that's already in Third Reich events. So interesting that they have Italy in the center of that. Okay, military hero is emerged. I want more troops, 100 more manpower, that's excellent. And another one, we're also going to 50 manpower. Now, keep everybody happy, we gotta give out medals. Lose popularity. We'll spend money making the medals. That, I believe, is the, I made this event, the close assault badge, that which is a sort of hand-to-hand type fighting assault. Tank badge, sort of the basic combat infantryman division type badge type version for Germany. So we'll do that. Okay, establish the Reichsleiter Rosenberg, or the Einstab Stab headquarters. Headquarters, I forget. Basically, it's known as the ERR. The task force is a Nazi Party organization headed by Alfred Rosenberg, quite famous Nazi theorist guy. He just, probably just wanted to eliminate half the world's population. That's about it, that kind of thing. Although otherwise probably not a bad guy, but he just wanted to kill millions and millions of people. The ERR is authorized by Führer directive on the 5th of July 1940 to confiscate manuscripts and books from libraries and archives. That is what it was initially set up for. That's obviously a color photo of Rosenberg. There's a letterhead from it outside the envelope, and I've highlighted the thing. Wanted a good title for it. You can decide not to do this. If you don't want to, you'll get some dissent. You'll lose some popularity, because his program was fairly popular with the Nazis. This is starting out as a parallel program to the earlier program that we've seen with the event, setting up the lots of events. Part of the reason they're all happening now is because I've just finally played it enough times and gone past the first of the month without having to restart the thing, because that's a problem with this. With the Linz Museum project of art collection that was set up, that you've obviously, if you've watched the blanking on the movie now, the recent movie, the where they're going into Matt Damon, Clooney movie, boy, forgetting the name of it, that's recently a fairly decent movie where they're going in and trying to save the art treasures that Germany was taking. That's obviously the opposites, trying to recollect them. Like I said, there was the parallel Linz program set up to identify it. They eventually basically merge, and we will see that this becomes more than confiscate manuscripts and books from libraries and archives. But that's where it starts out. They were trying to collect various books for different reasons. This wasn't an attempt to ban the books. It was much more of an attempt to collect information. And it's also similar and parallel, if you will, to Himmler's collection of books that he was doing. His was a bit more with a esoteric, trying to find the Raiders of the Lost Ark kind of stuff, and he was really trying to do the Spear of Destiny and some of these other lost Templar treasures and similar sorts of things that Himmler was trying to do. Also going on at this time, we're going to do it because this will start off an event chain that's quite interesting. A Vlad Virgil, and I forget the numbers after his name, event that he sent all this work into me. I've made the event images, but based off of a lot of his suggestions, and only just sort of tweaked his coding a little bit. So yeah, we're going to do it. I mean, we will get a little dissent. We'll get a lot more if we don't do it. The reason you get a little if you do it is because this is starting out in, I think we'll see another event once we start it out. It's starting out collecting in the former Czechoslovakia regions that Germany controls, that they were doing that as well. So some people weren't happy that their books were being collected from various libraries, but you gain not so much a popular dissent as I looked at it, but a dissent amongst the elites who within the Nazi hierarchy that want to do this, even though that this might disrupt, and you're gaining money sort of as a representative of some of the treasures you'll be getting over time. You can decide not to do it, but there are some other negative costs, and there are some benefits as you go along with it too. So we're going to do that. Okay, this is, I know I talked about this in the last series, but not in this series. Hitler Youth, the HJ, the Hitler Jugend, to visit Japan. This is the second visit, and you see a couple of photos from them there. Archery there. And these were, don't think of these as little kids like 13-year-olds or something like when they were taking bicycle trips to Britain. These guys are like 16, 18 years old, and a few of them are sort of the younger leadership elements, in their early 20s or whatever, for this. And did I 6 HJ boys, and I guess the leaders, all that they were sent. And they were sent, and this was after the war started in 1940, right at about this time. And they had to go via train all the way across the Soviet Union, the Trans-Siberian Railway, all the way over here into Manchukuo, and then from there, I believe they took a plane, or was it ship, I forget, but to Japan for their tour. So they had to travel all that way, all across, had to get permission from the Soviet government, obviously, to do this beforehand. But at this time, the Soviet Union was being very cooperative. I'm not saying they were friendly with Germany, or Stalin really loved Hitler, or the Nazis and the communists were really getting together and liking each other. No, it was a practical thing, and Stalin was being cooperative, shall we say, not so much friendly, but cooperative at this time. And that's how they got all the way across there. That's a photo of one of the badges that the Japanese made for the event, and all the HJ guys got one, and I don't know if you can really see it at this scale, but you can see it on their uniforms that they wore while they were there. So we can decide to send them or not. You send them, you lose a little bit of money and supplies, but infinitesimal, obviously, and you improve relations with Japan. It just sort of, if we hadn't got, well, you can sour relations, and I don't know what it does if they'll ever leave the faction, but obviously this helps keep them happier. And if you hadn't gotten them into the faction yet, it would help a little bit. Okay, just and they came back the same way, all the way across the Soviet Union via train. It took like a week or more, or whatever, or a couple of weeks. This close up there of the title, but was one of the things that they would Light is the safest bomber's target. These were things put up on people's doors and similar things for badly lit houses, and sort of a letting everybody know, because at nighttime, for blackout purposes, I guess I should just be saying. And I wanted to show because I've often grown up seeing various posters and things like that for Britain at this time, and the Blitz and blackout stuff, but Germany was going through the same, and I wanted to show part of the, as you can tell, I know and like a lot of the, military oriented stuff, but a lot of the focus of Third Reich events is to give you the feeling of what it was like to be alive at that time in the Third Reich, and part of it was the blackouts that were going on, because primarily the British, but the French did a little as well, bombing raids, and this was at this time well before the Americans were coming in. The British were just doing night time. Okay, start production. We get a strategic resource, so it says when removed. Okay, the Penguin. Yes, launcher. We want the commerce raiders. Increase our police forces. This, believe, is one of Revolver Held's the GGA mod. In the aftermath of successful operations at 39, police forces were increased to provide security. Yes, we want to do that. This basically, I guess, just gives us a lot of manpower boost and some officer boosts for the police units that are coming up. So yes, we want to do that. Always, it will cost us supplies, but that's one of the reasons we have so much of them. Okay. Cindy. Ordnungspolizei into the conquests in the West. Yes, we want to do that. Establish German police forces, part of the occupational regime. And see, now here we're losing a little bit of manpower and officers, because this is actually the forming of the units. And in our another one, these are all popping up for the Netherlands. Yes, we want to do that. The Ordnungspolizei into the West, and this one is France, so we've gotten enough of France, he thought, by now to do that. Okay, the German, I'm not even going to try to pronounce that, the German military occupation in Denmark. Yes, we want to do that. And this is the armies as opposed to the polices. It will give us, I'll show you here in a second, but you can see what we're looking at here, and this is, we have cores here, so we're not having revolt risk there. But here we don't have cores, so we have a functionally 2% revolt risk. I don't like this because, one, it's not historic. They actually kept the Danish government in place, though it was very much a puppet government, though the puppet mechanism I don't like either terribly much. So I like the occupation, which gives us something like we're seeing up here in Norway, in which we have to supply troops to control it, but it does allow us the ability to reduce revolt risk to 0 by putting enough manpower in, which helps getting some of these to help us out here. Though it won't, it will be, it won't, you don't necessarily get 100%, because we can go politics here, and we can look at, these are all military governments right now. Is the default setup here, so you can click France, and we can choose various, we have full occupation, total exploitation. So total exploitation here, you reduce the ICs by 20%, but you get almost no leadership modifiers. It's like by 99% reduction, but massive plus 25% partisan support, local resources, only 10% minus. but it's 95% minus manpower modifiers, where with like a military government, oh, and revolt risk is at 22%. We're military government, we got a 16%, manpower only minus 20% instead of 95, so we have more people coming in. Potentially, I look at this as the manpower usage is not that, say, because I clicked on France, is not that there's so many Frenchmen joining up for the German forces. They're few and rare, and you can look at some of the units, meaning it's not really hardly even but a divisional force on, at least on an active combat type troops. But it means the local police stayed in function in France, so that they help maintain control and order, so you don't have Germans doing it. There was a lot of voluntary and some involuntary labor of Frenchmen going to work in German factories, and German factories, as well as reopening military factories in France that were managed and operated by, manpowered by Frenchmen. So that's what this represents, where if you go with total exploitation, you're pissing the people off. So a lot of people don't want to work in factories, need to be heavily guarded by Germans and that kind of thing, and you're really pumping it out. But you're only minusing 20% in ICs as opposed to minusing 70%. So basically you're getting 30% of the ICs anywhere in France that you control under this setting. You might want to go to full occupation. That is something that it's tolerable, a little bit more exploited if you really think you need the ICs. Now, we are right now functioning at 702 ICs. I would rather have minus 70% in resources on ICs, and part of that represents not so much that the ICs are functioning any more or less here, but they're still producing goods that support the French population instead of just sucking everything out as well too. So it's various policies, but we have more leadership. There's less partisan support, so it doesn't get quite as bad. So yes, at 2% revolt risk in Denmark as part of Germany, we're probably exploiting the I really do believe, not just probably, but I haven't done the math, so I'm going to say probably, you're getting the best results out of the situation here, the manpower, the leadership, even though you can't reduce the revolt risk any lower. It stays here at the 2% level. You're getting the best out of it, but I think it's a little unrealistic, is my biggest complaint by it. But yes, we want to put this up in Denmark, and you see the military command here, which should have been coded to attach there. And I think we also got another unit. But by doing this, we have an HQ, some garrison troops, which we don't need because the 2% won't generate spontaneous revolts. They might be putting in covert action to create revolts. Now we can see what we want to do with this. Probably, obviously, leave the HQ here in Copenhagen. If we were worried about revolts, I would also leave the HQ there, but we might move it to one of these other port cities to keep there as anti-invasion forces, but I don't think we're going to be doing that anytime soon. Okay, let's see. I want to save this game right now. As a precaution here. arrange the Balkans with Italy. My contributor from Italy, Pavellini, has been very helpful with a bunch of events, and I've sort of asked him, and I haven't gotten a response yet, probably will have by this time this out, is there was a surprising lack of coordination between Germany and Italy. I don't know if, because it was, Germany was well onto its way to success before Italy joined the fight. And in my opinion, that was way too late to be of any use. And they, of course, Mussolini thought he was going to have some sweeping victories into here. He didn't really have much. Either they should have entered the war early on and just sort of, because there were fortifications along here, which we're not seeing because they're not here. Well, a little bit there, but in several of these provinces there were fortifications, and they should be corrected. Not just there at the city. The Italians have built, but they should have declared war, if not early on in the sense of once Germany goes to war in 1939, declared war and jumped in. The French may have actually been serious enough to try and advance into Italy. They should have declared war, I don't know, a week, 2 weeks before Fall Gelb, so that the French, the British even potentially, would have been a bit more serious about sending troops and starting operations down here. Whether they thought they could push into Italy or not, I don't know. Whether they had any stomach for pushing into Italy or not, I'm not sure. But it would have made a, it would have gone from a potential theater of operations to a real theater of operations. And Italian air operations down here would have either meant they would have either had a fairly free hand at operating down here, or it would have, a lot of air assets would have had to been sent down here. And then obviously, if you're going to be operating in the Mediterranean, either Italy would have at that time a free hand with air assets in the Mediterranean, or again, they would be having to send in a lot of air resources, including fighter squadrons that were desperately needed for the Battle of France, were needed for the Battle of Britain, that wouldn't have easily been spared for here. Obviously, the Navy force itself, the French surface fleet, wasn't really doing anything anyways. They weren't hunting the Graf Spee, which was out at sea when the war started. They weren't doing some of the other operations. They were doing, I think, some convoying a little bit, but not much. So they were free to operate, but the British were already sort of combination of keeping their forces in Scapa Flow up here to bottle up the German minor surface fleet, but that they were worried about commerce raiding with it, not that they were going to challenge British dominance of the high seas, but they did have their own worries already. So it would have spread their forces much thinner out, including things like air operations, much more. Now, obviously, it wasn't needed for the Battle of France, but Germany and Italy didn't know that at the time, and basically, I think to some degree, maybe Italy's cowardice about entering the big war until it was thought to be won, maybe, or Mussolini, I should say, as opposed to Italy. I don't know entirely in detail. I'd like some more information on it, so if you guys can like point me towards a good Wikipedia article or something, I wouldn't mind. Or like as when Italy did enter the war, they entered the war, like I was saying, late, tried to snap up some territory in the south of France, marched an army into Egypt here that was sort of moving almost in, by one description, sort of like Napoleonic type columns into attack, and just got slaughtered and surrounded and captured. I'm talking like an army as in, well, at least a corps size unit that just got snapped up by the British. much inferior in numbers, at least, force. Yeah, it was I forget who the Italian commander was, but it was a pathetic invasion attempt. It was scaled large enough for it to be a good invasion attempt, and they may have just really presumed that they could have gotten almost to Alexandria before the British were going to be able to react. That's why maybe they were such in bad position when they did. But it was pathetically bad. So, and that was all after the, near total victory in France. But had they done that with a defensive plan, they would have survived much better, and the first large Italian losses wouldn't have happened. And then, of course, they did the very ill-fated attack into Greece without any warning to Hitler. And I think that was also a German intelligence failure, meaning that German intelligence didn't pick up Italy's preparations and plans and communications that they were getting ready to invade, and let the German high command know that the operation was sort of, really getting ready to go. And so maybe what day it happened on might have been a surprise, but they should have at least known it was coming. But to my understanding, it was still even the whole notion of declaring war and invading Greece was a complete surprise to the Germans. And I think that was Mussolini just thought he could take it and wasn't doing very well in Libya, or Libya and Cyrenaica, however you want to look at it at the time. But wasn't doing well, and you couldn't necessarily just throw in more divisions into Libya because of the supply situations and the ground situations, that even some of this is a bit overstacked, just because of what the terrain and everything could logistically support. But you could open up another front against a limited strength enemy, the Greeks. It wasn't like opening up another front against France or the U.S. Now, obviously, the British did intervene in here, but it was entirely badly coordinated, and it could have been coordinated very well with Germany. So I don't know whether it was, and I suspect it was Germany just not communicating to what it saw as a junior and almost irrelevant partner, and then Mussolini going, well, they're not telling me what they're doing, and I want to do something, so I'm going to go ahead and do it. That may be the main and primary explanation for it. But I think it could have been coordinated without forcing the Italians to do exactly as the Germans wanted, without, demanding that the Germans be always the senior partner. Because until Italy was collapsing, Mussolini at least thought of himself as an equal partner. Whether that's the case or not in capabilities is another thing, but that's how he saw himself. So we're going to get back to the thing was order the Balkans with Italy, and it was sort of getting back to how it should be done. I want it to be a German sphere. This will, and as we talked, I don't know if relations will get so bad that the country would pull out or not. This helps our relations, so we're going to take this, the Balkan question, even if Italy... Okay, this is not the outcome I wanted, or I'm going to accept. So, we're going to leave the episode here. It's been long enough. I'm going to try this again. That's why I saved it, and I'll come right back. And it's if this is the most likely outcome, and obviously if we refuse Italy, no, this is the event, we'll leave the Axis. There is the possibility either A, they'll accept, or B, this will happen. But so I'm just going to accept this, but leave this here. But there is the possibility that they will accept sort of a more partnership arrangement with Germany as well. So we're going to go back and get that, because the primary thing that I need out of this and I don't mind giving up the territory to Italy, really. Some of it obviously is useful for more ICs and such that are nice, but I need some ports in the former Yugoslavia, not just one port. I need multiple ports. And it's a game mechanic situation, because you can't run a German train across an Italian controlled territory to an Italian controlled port and have an Italian port run supplies into a German controlled port. It just can't happen with the mechanics, which is a limitation here, and I think it's going to continue to be a limitation in what I've gotten from the developers, which is unclear to me, but I don't think you can do it in Hearts of Iron 4 either, and it's just a game mechanic limitations, and I'm not willing to accept that for my plans. So thanks for watching, thanks for liking the videos. If you have any comments, please post them. I'm going to for the next playthrough reload from that last little save, which we haven't been playing any substantial game from that point, and try the option again. And that's what you should do if you don't like the outcome of it, is try the option again.